I got 25 years experience covering economics and finance. We hold grown-up discussions with a host of experts who really know their stuff. We can't buy gas and store it. That was a mistake, wasn't it?
I think it was a mistake.
Even you, Liam, don't have a crystal ball.
Inflation's a real threat.
Every weekday at 1, you're on the money.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome to On the Money. I'm Liam Halligan. For the next hour, we'll be focused on how this Russia-Ukraine conflict and the broader East-West standoff will impact your cost of living. As the Western world moves to introduce what Downing Street is calling a massive package of sanctions, how might Russia respond? And what could that mean for exports of oil, gas and other commodities? And in turn, for you here in Britain, worrying times. But On the Money is here to explain what's happening, to tell you why and what it means for you. After the GB News headlines with Rhiannon Jones.
Good afternoon. It's 1 minute past 1. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister says the UK and its allies will respond to Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine with a massive package of sanctions. Boris Johnson's pledged to do everything he can to keep Britain safe, adding that Moscow's actions must end in failure. Russian military vehicles marked with the letter Z have already entered Ukraine. Earlier today, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan was the latest world leader to meet with President Putin. Mr. Johnson says the UK won't turn a blind eye to the attacks.
We and the world cannot allow that freedom just to be snuffed out. We cannot and will not just look away. Today, in concert with our allies, we will agree a massive package of economic sanctions designed in time to hobble the Russian economy. Our mission is clear. Diplomatically, politically, economically, and eventually militarily, this hideous and barbaric venture of Vladimir Putin must end in failure.
Well, speaking in the last few minutes, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the stability of Europe is at stake.
What is at stake is the stability of Europe and the whole international order, our peace order. President Putin chose to bring war back to Europe.
That, as NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said, the Kremlin's intentions are clear for the world to see.
Russia has attacked Ukraine. This is a brutal act of war. Peace on our continent has been shattered. We now have war in Europe on a scale and of a type we thought belonged to history.
Jens Stoltenberg speaking there earlier. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky urged citizens to become blood donors in hospitals for wounded soldiers.
The Ukrainian armed forces were involved in heavy fighting, repelling attacks in Donbass and other regions, east, north, south. The enemy sustained serious losses, and the enemy will sustain many more losses. They came on our land. We're already handing out weapons, and will hand out them to defend our country to everyone who wants and has the capacity to defend our sovereignty. The future of Ukraine depends on every citizen.
In other news, all remaining COVID restrictions in England end today. That means people who test positive with the virus will no longer legally have to isolate. It follows the Prime Minister's Living with COVID strategy, which also includes scrapping universal testing from April. The Queen has cancelled more planned virtual engagements today following her COVID diagnosis last week. That's been confirmed by Buckingham Palace. It follows other cancelled virtual meetings at the start of the week, with the monarch still suffering with mild cold-like symptoms. The palace says Her Majesty will continue with light duties. Students starting university in September will now have to start paying back their loans as soon as they earn more than £25,000 a year. That's part of the government's response into the Augar review, which looks into funding within higher education. The current threshold for repaying student loans is just over £27,000 a year. The UK has pledged £160 million to speed up the development of vaccines against deadly diseases. The funding will go towards preparing for future epidemics, with an aim to slash the time it takes to make a vaccine to 100 days. That's a third of the time it took to develop the first COVID jab. It will also help with developing further vaccines to protect against future COVID-19 strains. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens, including the latest from Ukraine. Now let's return to Liam and On the Money.
And coming up on the money today, the price of oil, gas, electricity and wheat have risen sharply on global markets this morning. This military conflict between Russia and Ukraine is, of course, of huge geopolitical importance as nations clash. But there's a massive economic impact too, and potentially on the cost of living in Britain, with millions of families across the UK already struggling to make ends meet. We're looking at household utility bills, petrol and diesel prices, the cost of food, all of which could spiral upward if this conflict is sustained and even escalates. Wars clearly have a human and psychological cost, but they have an economic impact too, even when they're in distant countries, and they impact living standards. So stay with us. This is GB News on TV and DAB plus digital radio. I'm Liam Halligan, and you're on the money. But first, let's speak to Sir Michael Fallon. He was Secretary of State for Defence from 2014 to 2017. Sir Michael, good to see you here on the money, albeit in very difficult circumstances. Were you surprised when you woke up to this morning's news?
No, I think we've had plenty of warning of this over the last few days, and the intelligence seems to have been correct. It's a desperately sad day for the Ukraine. But it's a defining moment for our own continent. We're at war again on our continent, and there are going to be, as you said, repercussions for us, just as there are for the rest of Europe and the people of Ukraine too.
Politics for many years, Michael Fallon, you've been in the room, as the phrase goes, when big geopolitical decisions are made. In putting together this massive package of sanctions, as the Prime Minister has dubbed it, what will have been going through his mind, through the minds of Ben Shepherd, Defence Secretary, through the minds, indeed, of Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor?
Well, first, the sanctions have to be more severe. There are already sanctions applying to Russia after they invaded the Crimea 8 years ago. And those sanctions, quite clearly, as of this morning, have not worked. They've not deterred Putin from invading a further bit, all of Ukraine. So they've got to be much tougher than last time, and they've got to really bite on the economy of Russia, and that's going to affect us. I guess we're going to see higher energy costs. We're seeing the price of oil going up, the price of gas going up. We're also likely to see some disruption to our trade. And I suspect also, if the war continues, we're going to see hundreds of thousands of refugees heading westwards out of Ukraine into Western Europe.
Since I appeared on GB News Breakfast this morning, Sir Michael, the price of oil's gone up almost 9%. It's now well above $104 a barrel. The price of wholesale electricity is up by a third. The price of wholesale gas in Europe is up almost 40%. These, of course, are initial responses on global markets. They will find their level. This is a spike. There'll probably be some kind of pullback. But already, as you know well, going into this escalated conflict, there were already millions of families struggling to make ends meet here in the UK. There was already a cost of living crisis. This is going to have some serious political fallout, isn't it?
Yes, and there are already cost of living increases coming. They're in the pipeline. They're already baked in for April, and there are increases coming in the council tax, increases in national insurance, and so on. Now, inevitably, because Russia is a big exporter of gas and oil to the European continent, inevitably we're going to feel that. The markets and the suppliers will no doubt try to find ways round that to mitigate it. But yes, we're going to be paying more for our energy. And I hope the Prime Minister makes it very clear that although, of course, we want the sanctions to bite hard on Putin and the Russian economy, I hope he also makes it clear that there is a cost to us. And that is a cost that we will have to bear.
Treasury Minister, too, in your time, do you think ahead of what we were already calling a triple whammy on living standards in April, as those household utility bills go up, that's already scheduled, as inflation rises, as those national insurance contribution rises come in, do you think ahead of that the government, given this escalation in military conflict and the impact on commodity and energy prices, do you think the government is going to have to put in more measures to support not just the most vulnerable families, but many families higher up the income scale, Sir Michael, who frankly are also now struggling to pay their bills?
Well, we've got a budget coming up, and I think it's inevitable now that the Chancellor will have to reflect on these increases that are in the pipeline and look and see where we've got to with gas and oil prices. There are various instruments that the government has at its control. It has the price cap. It could vary the level of VAT. There are a number of things the Chancellor could do, but he's not going to do that sort of thing overnight. He'll obviously look at it over the next few weeks as he comes to prepare his budget.
So, Michael, you and I have talked a lot about Russia over the years. We'd both agree that our economies are much, much more entwined now, the West and the former Soviet Union, than they were during those Cold War times when we grow up. Do you think in the end that's what will ultimately diffuse this situation, this mutual economic dependence, the fact that there's Western countries with huge business interests in Russia and vice versa? Or am I being too optimistic?
No, I think the sanctions should, if they're applied severely, they should have a much stronger effect than maybe they would have 20 or 30 years ago. As you say, Russia depends on the European continent for a lot of its exports. So we may be seeing quite a bit of trade disruption. There is also a growing interdependence in the financial system between the Russian banks and their financial institutions and the City of London. So if the sanctions are tough enough, if they do exclude Russia from the international financial system, then that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt in Moscow, and maybe that will finally persuade Putin just to hold off again.
So what's your gut instinct? You're out of frontline politics now, but you're clearly still a very influential voice, if I may say so. What's your advice to those men and women around the cabinet table, people you know well, as they go into probably their biggest test of their political lives?
Well, first, we should not underestimate our own strength. We're part of this huge NATO alliance, a very successful organisation that defends each of us. And that alliance, is holding firm and is the best possible guarantee of our own security. Second, under that alliance, we should be looking to help and support the most vulnerable, those right on the eastern edge of NATO, the Baltic states, Poland, and Romania. And thirdly, we should continue to help, in whatever way we can, the government of Ukraine, whether we can do it with intelligence, with some cyber capability. It may be too late to supply further weapons now, but we should be looking to do what we can to help. The important thing, I think, is to realise that in the West we have the strength. We have the defensive shield of NATO. We have the financial systems and the firepower, if you like, of the Western economies. And if they operate together, if Berlin and Paris and London and Washington, the heads of these governments, absolutely act in unison, in lockstep, then I think we have a chance, only a chance, of making Moscow think again.
Sir Michael Fallon, former UK Defence Secretary, thanks for your time. Let's stay in touch during this difficult period as the situation develops.
Thank you, Liam.
Now, for weeks, On the Money has been warning that escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine would eventually lead to a serious rise in UK fuel and energy costs. And now that's starting to happen. The invasion of East Ukraine by Russia is causing turmoil on global energy and commodity markets. As such, while this may seem like a distant conflict in far-flung countries, this East-West standoff has economic as well as military and political implications impacting your cost of living here in the UK. Russia is, of course, among the world's very biggest oil exporters, and oil prices have this morning spiked way above $100 a barrel, a new 7-year high. Over recent months, petrol and diesel prices already averaging around £1.50 a litre. Now the RAC is warning they're likely to go much higher. If oil hits $120 or even $140 a barrel, as some now think, we could be looking at more than £1.70 a litre on the forecourt as we fill up our cars and vans. Russia's also the world's biggest gas exporter, providing Western Europe with 40% of our natural gas. Since news broke of Russia's invasion, the prospect Moscow could respond to Western sanctions by blocking gas exports, at least to Western Europe, has sent European wholesale gas prices soaring by a massive 40%. Gas is used to generate electricity, of course, so higher gas prices means even higher utility bills. Big increases in household fuel costs are already scheduled for April. And unless wholesale gas prices fall back soon, household energy bills could go higher still. The Western world is outraged by Moscow's action, of course, so there's huge pressure to impose sanctions, restricting Russia's trade. But if that leads to Russia diverting its oil and gas elsewhere, to China, for instance, ordinary households will be hit hard. So whether we're talking oil and gas, wheat, fertiliser, a host of rare metals vital to Western manufacturers, Russia is a pivotal global exporter. Our economies are way more integrated than during Soviet times. So that's our On the Money question today, and it's a tough one. Will harsh sanctions on Russia impact your cost of living? An expert panel of people who really know their stuff as ever on the money. I'm joined by Peter Smith, Director of Policy and Advocacy at the National Energy Action, campaigning against spiralling fuel prices for ordinary households. We have Joe Malinowski. Welcome back, Joe. He's founder of the Energy Shop.
Hi.
From Essex, we have Alan Stannard, 77-year-old GB News viewer. Our viewers vital to our conversation here on the money. And here in the studio, Miss Manny Magpie herself, Jasmine Birtles, friend of the show. Good to see all of you here on the money. Let's go to you, Peter. Now, the government, completely by chance, this morning was issuing figures on fuel poverty across the UK. The official figures show that around 3.5 million households are suffering from difficulty paying their fuel bills, and that's before these April price rises that are already scheduled in as that Ofgem energy price cap rises. But you, at National Energy Action, you think these hair-raising figures are actually underestimates, don't you?
Well, sadly, we do. We believe that the true picture around the levels of fuel poverty is about 6.5 million UK households that are going to be living in fuel poverty when we see these huge high price increases from April, 50% price increases in April. There's a 2-year lag in terms of the government's own statistics, and the measurement that they use is a slightly different one to the one that we've calculated. But what it does highlight, the government statistics today do highlight, is a really worrying overlap between the poorest households that live in the least efficient homes. And whilst we know that the average consumer will see a energy prices of about £2,000 from April, that belies the fact that some households are going to see much, much more than that because they use far more energy than is needed in their homes. The least efficient homes occupied by some of the poorest people could see bills up to about £3,000, £3,500, despite the fact that those people are living on the lowest income. So it is a very worrying picture.
Let's go to Joe Malinowski. Joe, you've often appeared on The Money talking to us about what ordinary consumers can do. We've advised people to check if they're eligible for benefits. We've advised people to contact their energy providers if they're having difficulty paying. We've advised them to do all the obvious things like only heat the rooms you're in, wear more clothes and so on. But all that was before what is now a much more serious situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like we said last week, it was looking dire for households on the basis of the price cap that we're going to be seeing in 5 weeks' time, 1st of April, which is going up by £693. And we haven't even seen that yet. And now we're talking about what the Ukraine invasion may have to even the next price cap before people have seen a record increase the first time around. I mean, we are now potentially looking at, last week we did talk about this, and I sort of said if Russia invades, then all bets are off because it's difficult to know where this is going. But on the basis of just the 40% rise in wholesale prices we've had today, gas is energy is 40% of the customer's bill. 40% of 60% is 24, round it to 25, apply it to a £2,000 bill, and we're already looking at a potential increase to £2,500. And that's before the long tail risks of maybe Russia retaliating and cutting off supplies, which is not done yet.
Looking at pictures here of the laying of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline between Germany and Russia across the Baltic Sea. That pipeline, the opening of it has been delayed. That will certainly annoy the Russians. It could lead to retaliation where they don't send gas exports so much to Western Europe. They divert them somewhere like China. Let's bring in Alan Stannard, 77-year-old GB News viewer. Alan, you're the latest in a series of GB News viewers we've had on The Money. Our viewers and listeners are welcome to contact us in order to discuss your views on the show. What are your thoughts in terms of fuel and energy bills, your household utility bills? We know, as Joe Malinowski just said, that prices are slated to go up around 50% already in April, and now they could go up even more. How does that make you feel?
Well, thanks, Liam, for having me on. Well, first of all, I need to say that we obviously, as far as gas is concerned, we're sitting on a potential gold mine in the north of England. The Bowland Shale, would be a lifesaver for the country. I understand that there's something like 25 trillion cubic feet of gas under our feet. And if we just recovered 10% of that, that would be enough for the whole United Kingdom for 50 years and worth something like £3.3 trillion. There are figures that even our Chancellor would raise his eyebrows at. But as far as our cost of living is concerned, there's a couple of things that they could do. Obviously, as costs go up across the country, everything you buy that has VAT on it will then increase and give the Chancellor more income. So the national insurance hike could almost certainly go. The two other things I think would help with the cost of living is standing charges on our gas and electricity bills. What do we pay them for? They tell us they're connection charges. Well, they only connect us once when the house is built. So why do we still have to pay them? And it hits poor people more because everybody pays virtually the same standing charge. So it's something, we're paying something for nothing. And the other thing, of course, in my opinion, is the 25%, this horrendous green tax. That is, where's that going? Basically paying landowners and farmers growing solar farms and wind turbines instead of growing food. Get rid of both of those, and it would lower. It may not lower the cost of living. It would certainly stop it from going up.
Alan Stannard, you talk a lot of sense. I'm sure lots of GB News viewers and listeners agree with you. We're going to keep this discussion carry on after the show, after the break. Stay with us.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. A cold and windy day for all of us with a mixture of rain, snow and hail showers in many spots, but also some sunny spells away from the showers. The best of the blue skies will be across southern and eastern parts of the UK. The snow showers coming in from the northwest will continue. Could even see a few flakes of snow in the south mixed in with the rain and sleet showers. And there'll be some more persistent rain, sleet and hill snow for Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England later. Most of the snow settling, though, over hills, and temperatures down compared to recent days, 4 to 6 in the north, 7 to 9 in the south. And feeling cold in the wind, which will be particularly strong during the afternoon and evening for Northern Ireland, parts of western Scotland, and then overnight down the North Sea coast, wind gusts of 50, 60 miles an hour. Later, overnight, the wind and the showers die away. And there'll be some icy patches to wake up to across Scotland, parts of northern England. But Friday is looking like a vastly improved day. A ridge of high pressure builds in from the south, and that tends to kill off the showers. It tends to reduce the wind speeds. And as a result, there'll be plenty more sunshine to wake up to, with most places seeing a fine day. Still a few showers trickling into northwest England, the Midlands, perhaps East Anglia and the southwest. But these will be few and far between, particularly by the afternoon. And by the afternoon, most places are dry with long spells of sunshine, just some cloud bubbling up there in the south and some thicker cloud arriving into the northwest with some rain for western Scotland later. 11 Celsius in the south, 8s and 9s further north, so feeling more pleasant compared to today. The rain across Scotland pushes east overnight into the start of the weekend, and the winds then pick up in the northwest for the weekend, with some further spells of rain in the far northwest. But for most, Saturday's looking like a fine day with plenty of sunshine.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 1:28. You're on the money with me, Liam Halligan, on GB News TV and DAB Plus digital radio. We're going to return to that discussion about fuel prices with my panel later in the show, because joining us now is Stefan Pasichnik, who's Ukrainian living in the UK. You've still got family, Stefan, in Ukraine. You're based in Cheshunt, just north of London. How did you feel waking up to the news this morning of this huge escalation in conflict between your home country of Ukraine and Russia?
Actually, I'm of the Ukrainian emigrant community. I'm of the generation that was born here. My dad came over after the Second World War. The various ways of immigration are integrated. I'm actually born in this country, of Ukrainian descent. Like many people, we woke up this morning, like many people from the Ukrainian community, we woke up this morning with a sense of disbelief, but at the same time, this feeling of, dare I say it, I told you so. This has been brewing for 8 years. So it's shock, sadness, disappointment, worry for our families over there. It's very real with the advent of modern technology, communications. We talk to them there via WhatsApp, Facebook, things like that. So it's very, very real. Only last week I was talking to my youngest cousin, who's distraught at the fact that her son might be sent out on his second tour of duty, having already been out there once and come back, because it's something that's been going on since 2014 and only grabbed the world's attention with the latest escalation, really.
Stefan, it's clear if you listen to the most senior politicians in the US, indeed in the UK, it's clear that Ukraine isn't going to be invited to join NATO anytime soon. It's clear that the Western world aren't going to put, as the phrase has it, boots on the ground in Ukraine, even in the face of this aggression from the East. Is that wrong?
Yeah. We are where we are. I'm not a politician. I can only say that we wish that Ukraine had been accepted into NATO at the first opportunity that it could have been, and we wouldn't be where we are. All we can do is be grateful for all the help and any more help that's being sent into Ukraine, which ironically is arguably in effect doing NATO's work for it at the moment.
Now, you'll obviously be very well versed in the economies of Russia and Ukraine. I suspect you've got a keen understanding of the importance of the economies of Russia and Ukraine, their importance in terms of foodstuffs, basic commodities, a whole host of products that we use in the West without even thinking about it. There is now going to be a discussion, isn't there, a national debate about the impact of these sanctions on living standards here in the UK. Much as you want sanctions on Russia, do you accept that that is a legitimate debate to have?
I think we have the luxury of those debates here. I'm not one to say we shouldn't talk about the effects that we'll have, but the bigger picture is where we'll put in stop, and will there be bigger long-term problems? I could put it this way. If he gets what he wants, and God forbid that happens, there will be far-reaching, much longer-term costs in defence against the resurgence of an empire, and you've got to weigh those costs up against. So if you're going to have a discussion about food prices going up and oil prices going up, that's got to be weighed against the discussion of what's going to come out of the taxpayer's pocket to seriously boost the defence of most of well, not just Europe, but further afield against future aggression. Who knows where it's going to stop? That's got to be part of the discussion to make it a sensible one.
Stepan, you've expressed yourself beautifully, if I may say so. It's clearly a very difficult and emotional time.
Thank you.
For you, for the Ukrainian community here in Britain, and indeed for your extended family in Ukraine. Thank you so much for joining us on this difficult day.
Thank you for having us.
Pasichnik, who lives in the UK, just north of London. This is On the Money with me, Liam Halligan. After the break, we'll be joined by our Home Affairs and Security Editor, Mark White, for his take on the escalating conflict in Ukraine. That's after the GB News headlines with Rhiannon Jones.
It's 1:33. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister says the UK and its allies will respond to Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine with a massive package of sanctions. Boris Johnson's pledged to do everything he can to keep Britain safe, adding that Moscow's actions must end in failure. Russian military vehicles marked with the letter Z have already entered Ukraine, and NATO envoys have agreed to strengthen air, land and sea forces on its eastern flank. Ukrainian police say there have been over 200 Russian attacks so far today. Mr. Johnson says the UK won't turn a blind eye.
We and the world cannot allow that freedom just to be snuffed out. We cannot and will not just look away. Today, in concert with our allies, we will agree a massive package of economic sanctions designed in time to hobble the Russian economy. Our mission is clear. Diplomatically, politically, economically, and eventually militarily, this hideous and barbaric venture of Vladimir Putin must end in failure.
In other news, all remaining COVID restrictions in England end today. That means people who test positive with the virus will no longer legally have to isolate. It follows the Prime Minister's Living with COVID strategy, which also includes scrapping universal testing from April. Students starting university in September will now have to start paying back their loans as soon as they earn more than £25,000 a year. That's part of the government's response into the Augar Review, which looks into funding within higher education. The current threshold for repaying student loans is just over £27,000. TV online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. We'll have a full update at the top of the hour, including the latest on Ukraine. It's back to Liam and On the Money in just a moment.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 1:37. You're on the money with me, Liam Halligan. Now, there's a protest against Russian aggression happening outside Downing Street. Our reporter Rosie Wright is there for us. Rosie, I guess there's some pretty worried people down there.
Yes, Liam, that's an understatement. People here who woke up to the news this morning that their friends, their family were suddenly in a situation of turmoil, one that actually many Ukrainians I've spoken to today say they didn't actually expect would happen in the time frame that it did. And Lenya joins me now. Lots of people have been looking through social media, desperately trying to find out information. What do you know of your friends and family?
Okay, everything what I know, they are looking for a safe place because it's unsafe. It started a war in my city, in my country. Everywhere is bombarding, and they are calling me where maybe I have a place like a bomber shelter. Yes, I'm right, and they don't know what to do. They want to go to another city. Someone wants to move to another city, but it's impossible. Everything is blocked right now. Yesterday we have a normal life, and today we have a war that started from everywhere. And I'm supposed to be in Kiev tomorrow. But unusually, all I can do right now is to stay here, and my family and my friends are there, and they really don't know what to do, and they really want to be heard, and I'm here to be heard. That we need a support from Europe, from yes.
When you say you need support, we're hearing about sanctions, we're hearing about support from NATO. What is it that the Ukrainians want?
Look, right now the sanctions are really funny. Putin it's not afraid of the sanction. We need NATO. We need soldiers from another. We need support of NATO, and the sanction must be more. I don't know. More strict, but not so funny like.
So you think it's laughable?
Yes, it's really, he's not afraid. And look, it should be like no visas, no people, Russian people couldn't come anywhere, no SWIFT, not only one bank to close. Everything should be closed, and but actually I think we need a support by soldiers, because Ukraine is too small, Russia is too big.
So you want more military support?
Yes,
look,
military support.
For people in the UK who might feel like this feels far away, what do you...
It's very close. Yesterday, for me, it was also far away. Even in Ukraine, we have 8 years of war of Donetsk and Luhansk. And I am living in Kiev. And then when I was in Kiev, I thought it's too far for me. But now he's in Kiev, in my city. And tomorrow he could be here. I think he's a charismatic man, and he wants to be a god in this planet.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. There is real pain and hurt from the people here. Lots of people protesting with tears in their eyes, who are just aghast at how the situation developed so rapidly despite the warnings this morning. From outside Downing Street, these people will be protesting and petitioning the UK government to say, please hear us, and we need real support and serious sanctions.
Rosie Wright there, GB News reporter at that demonstration of Ukrainians in the UK outside Downing Street in central London. Well, I'm still with my expert panel to discuss what this Ukrainian-Russian conflict means for you, for the UK cost of living. Jasmine Birtles, let's turn to you. Thank you for waiting so patiently. You follow consumer trends very, very closely on your website, moneymagpie.com. We knew there was a cost of living crisis coming already in April. Now it's going to be worse. What can consumers do as these fuel bills escalate?
Well, has already been said, it's true. We've been talking about all the little things you can do to make things a bit cheaper at home, etc. But we're getting to a point where, how much more can you do? On Money Magpie, we're talking to people about how to make extra money, because I think we're getting to that point now. You need to make extra money, because it is true. I think prices are going to go up exponentially over this year. We were already expecting prices to go up, but again, it looks like the energy prices particularly are going to go up again later in this year. And already, as you've pointed out, oil has gone up, so petrol is already going to go up. Goodness knows about food, because, Kiev is the breadbasket and in this country.
Well, Russia too. Russia's the world's biggest wheat exporter.
True. Yep.
Ukraine is one of the world's major corn exporters. Between them, they control the global market for sunflower oil, which goes into a whole host of processed foods.
Yes.
Now, there's this Ofgem, which is the energy regulator. Every 6 months, they set a price cap.
Yes.
And usually only people like me or you notice that, don't we?
Yeah.
The general public doesn't. It's not really headline news. It is headline news now, because a few weeks ago, we learned that the energy price cap for households is going to go up 54% in April. That's the average household utility bill, to almost £2,000 a year. The next rise is due in October. Do you share my concern that there could be an interim rise between now and October, between April and October, given what's happening on wholesale energy markets?
There could be, absolutely. Because if the raw materials for the energy companies is going up, there comes a point where they do have to put the prices up. They can't not, because it's going to cost them otherwise to actually give energy to us. So, yes, it's perfectly possible. And at the moment, we're looking at, as you say, sort of an average of sort of £700 on the average bill come April. They're saying another 700 in the autumn.
These are huge sums.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of wealthy people, they won't even notice, but the rest of us, these are huge sums. And, of course, we know that lower-income households, they spend a disproportionately high share of their total expenditure on fuel, on food.
Yes, exactly. And as we've said, it's the basic foods. We're not talking champagne going up.
Yeah.
We're talking about
wheat,
bread,
exactly, pasta.
Yeah, eggs even going up, all sorts of these. So this is something that we are going to have to look at. And I agree with Alan that the government's going to need to actually look at this and take some VAT down so that households can cope.
Let's go back to my expert panel. Not that you're not part of the expert panel, Jasmine, of course you are. Let's talk now to Ian Henderson. Ian, thanks for joining us. You're the founder, managing director of Boiler Plan UK. You've got 100 engineers across Britain. You work with a charity to install free boilers to people in fuel poverty. So you and your fellow workers know all about when fuel poverty cuts at the sharp end. What do you think, listening to Jasmine and I talking about rising Ofgem energy price caps, 700 quid more on your fuel bill here, 500 quid more there? What's the reality of that on the ground?
Well, I mean, I guess, first of all, it's a sad day for everyone that we're in this situation in the 21st century. But we, as we all know, we have over 3 million people living in fuel poverty now, and that's only going to get worse. We speak to our customers every single day, and that is a big worry for them. Gas prices are a big worry for everybody. And as your last guest I said, that's only going to get worse. If there's an interim price hike, that's going to get even worse. All we can do, all customers can do to kind of mitigate their cost is to, exercise money-saving tips, such as, make sure your boiler's serviced, make sure it's running efficiently, turn your thermostat down 1 or 2 degrees, and that could save you up to 10%. Close doors, turn off radiators in rooms that you're not using. That sort of thing will all help. Maybe you run your washing machine overnight when potentially your energy bills are a little bit less, or your energy tariffs are a bit smaller. There's not a great deal that customers can do. Wearing an extra jumper is only one thing, but I think it's time for the government to come out and calm the public down and explain exactly what they're going to do to help with the cost of living crisis.
I think you're right, Ian. I think we are going to see big announcements from the government soon, if not during the budget towards the end of March. Let's go back to Joe Malinowski now. Joe, great to still have you with us. Thank you so much for your patience. You are the person who runs the energy shop. You know all about consumer energy bills. To what extent do you think the government is going to have to respond? A lot of people watching and listening to this programme are going to be concerned, and we don't want to alarm people, do we? But we don't want to not tell them what's actually happening.
You're absolutely right, but I think on a day like today, there's no way you can sugarcoat the situation we're in at the moment. I mean, like you said, we've had a 40% increase in wholesale gas costs today. That's the biggest part of the energy price cap, and that hasn't even taken it to, and that's still a third below where it was last December, when we didn't have an invasion and a war on our hands and risk of retaliation. So there's no easy way of sugarcoating it. At some point, we are going to have to see some further interventions. I mean, just to put a context on the package of support measures that have been announced so far, up to a maximum of £350, will be used up by the households who qualify for the maximum discount before the energy price cap even kicks in. They'll have used those up through the higher bills that kick in from April. The increased costs at £58 a month for the average household will be used up before they even get the rebate. If you only qualify for the £200, you'll have used that up by July, and that's a long time before the rebate kicks in. So we are talking very small interventions so far before, not in relation to the first increase, and we're now talking about the second one later in the year, but could be sooner, as you mentioned. So there will have to be some kind of increased intervention. The problem with interventions in the energy market is if you don't give it, if the consumer doesn't directly pay for it, it goes on to general taxation. It then goes back to households who are also consumers. So the best you can do is redistribute the pain. You can't actually get rid of it because one way or the other, households will end up paying for this.
Let's give the final word to Alan Stannard, GB News viewer. Alan, it's great to have you on the show. We hope many more GB News viewers and listeners join me on The Money to discuss these vital issues. You're retired, you're 77, you're pretty fit. You've unfortunately lost your wife. You are struggling with your fuel bills. Are you going to have to choose, Alan, between heating and eating?
No, Liam. I'm lucky enough that I can, within reason, afford to pay my bills and also to eat, which I understand that there's many that can't. And it's a real tragedy for such a wealthy country as we purport to be. I don't know what else to say, really. We're in the hands of other people. As far as I was one of the many people that campaigned very hard to get us away from the EU Politburo, as I call them, to be independent. But I agree that no country in the world today could be totally independent of world economics and things. But, we've run down our nuclear power to next to nothing. We've almost stopped new exploration in the North Sea, all in the name of the dreaded net zero. Most of our utilities are owned by foreign companies. And there we are sitting on this, as I said before, this incredible gold mine, which could make such a huge difference to everybody in the country.
Stannard there, thanks for joining us. You mentioned shale gas there at the end. I'm sure Boris Johnson is going to come under huge pressure to raise that moratorium on shale gas. Thanks for today's guests. Ian Henderson, founder and managing director of Boiler Plan UK. Joe Malinowski of The Energy Shop. Alan Stannard, GB News viewer. And, of course, in the studio, Jasmine Birtle at MissMoneyMagpie.com. Sorry we couldn't talk more, Jasmine. We'll obviously talk next time. Now, Bradley Harris, our GB News Northwest reporter, has been speaking to people in Altrincham to find out how they think the Ukraine crisis will impact fuel prices here in the UK.
Yes, it's having a great impact. I make soap for the retail trade, particularly for organic supermarkets, and my prices will have to go up about 7-8%. To be quite honest, the world's gone mad. I'm 81, I've never known anything like it.
We're not the only ones that are suffering on this, and the Russian thing hasn't helped at all.
It could go up a lot more.
And if it does go up further in terms of the price of fuel, what will you do?
I'll have to get my bike out.
I will be. I already am watching where I drive and curtailing my trip. The Russian invasion makes me wonder. I mean, that's going to be a worldwide impact in one way or another, and you know, least of all the terrible tragedy of it, but what it will do to things like price of petrol, etc. Because some of our petrol comes from that part of the world, isn't it?
GB News reporter Bradley Harris there talking to viewers and listeners in Altrincham near Manchester. Now, I'm joined in the studio by Mark White, GB News Home Affairs and Security Editor. Mark, it feels like deja vu. Several weeks ago, we sat in this On the Money studio and we talked about this trade-off between sanctions on the one hand, cost of living in the UK on the other. Crikey, that trade-off is in stark relief around the cabinet table today.
Yes, and clearly Vladimir Putin has made the calculation that whatever the economic sanctions, it is in his and his country's best interest to go ahead with what Western countries say is an invasion, not a peacekeeping operation, as he has claimed. But what is happening is it's being waged very fiercely now, especially in eastern Ukraine, but even in the capital, Kiev. Just a few minutes ago, the air raid sirens sounding in the capital again. It's come under missile attack, or at least certain installations in and around Kiev, which we think are probably military in nature, as Russia, we understand, is trying to take out command and control functions in order to facilitate the movement of their troops across the border. However, the Ukrainian military is saying it's not just military installations, that residential areas have been shelled as well. They are reporting that Mariupol, for instance,
down on the Sea of Azov, on the coast. That
port city, yes, in the southeast, has come under shelling attack. Shells landed in a residential area. No details on whether there are any casualties, but there are, and we've seen the videos, some quite horrific video coming from the agencies that we're not showing for obvious reasons, showing deaths, bodies on the ground. So there clearly are deaths. The Ukrainian government were putting the figure about an hour or so ago at 40. They are also saying that they have inflicted casualties on Russia, that they have shot down 3 Russian attack helicopters that were involved, according to the Ukrainian military, in attacking a military airbase just outside Kiev. Again, there are unverified pictures that are out there that appear to show that attack underway, with helicopters firing flares from either side as they go in, apparently to launch this attack. So it is all happening. It's been played out on camera. It's dramatic, but it is absolutely awful for the people in that country who are having to now deal with the reality of this. And as we speak, there are hundreds, thousands of people heading towards the borders. Poland has said, Liam, that it is setting up 6 reception centres just on the border between Poland and Ukraine to offer assistance, medical assistance and other aid to those who are streaming across the border to these reception centres.
Mark, tough times politically, militarily, diplomatically and indeed economically. Mark White, GB News Home Affairs and Security Editor, thank you for joining us. That's all we've got time for today. Thanks for joining me. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m, continuing to look at the situation in Ukraine, of course, the implications for living standards here in the UK, and I'll be appearing across GB News throughout the day to bring you more on those issues. This is GB News. I'm Liam Halligan, and that was On the Money.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. A cold and windy day for all of us, with a mixture of rain, snow and hail showers in many spots, but also some sunny spells away from the showers. The best of the blue skies will be across southern and eastern parts of the UK. The snow showers coming in from the northwest will continue. Could even see a few flakes of snow in the south mixed in with the rain and sleet showers. And there'll be some more persistent rain, sleet and hill snow for Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England later. Most of the snow settling, though, over hills, and temperatures down compared to recent days, 4 to 6 in the north, 7 to 9 in the south. And feeling cold in the wind, which will be particularly strong during the afternoon and evening for Northern Ireland, parts of western Scotland, and then overnight down the North Sea coast. Wind gusts of 50, 60 miles an hour. Later, overnight, the wind and the showers die away. And there'll be some icy patches to wake up to across Scotland, parts of northern England. But Friday is looking like a vastly improved day. A ridge of high pressure builds in from the south, and that tends to kill off the showers. It tends to reduce the wind speeds, and as a result, there'll be plenty more sunshine to wake up to, with most places seeing a fine day. Still a few showers trickling into northwest England, the Midlands, perhaps East Anglia and the southwest, but these will be few and far between, particularly by the afternoon. And by the afternoon, most places are dry with long spells of sunshine, just some cloud bubbling up there in the south and some thicker cloud arriving into the northwest with some rain for western Scotland later. 11 Celsius in the south, 8s and 9s further north, so feeling more pleasant compared to today. The rain across Scotland pushes east overnight into the start of the weekend, and the winds then pick up in the northwest for the weekend, with some further spells of rain in the far northwest. But for most, Saturday's looking like a fine day with plenty of sunshine.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious.